Hi everybody, this is Fox Nomad, and today I want to help you travel smarter by telling you the 12 things you should know before flying your first drone so you don't crash it. So, tip 1, start with a small drone. You don't want to get the most powerful, most expensive drone that you can find, even though that is tempting. If you crash it, it's going to be expensive. Also, it's like hopping into a Lamborghini as your first car. You don't want the most powerful machine that you can find. You want something small and cheap so you can get a good handle on how a drone reacts to your controls, how to fly a drone, and if you crash it, it won't be so expensive and you won't be so sad at the loss. Because larger drones are easier to control and they're more powerful. Something like a smaller drone like a Parrot is actually more difficult to control. So it's sort of like learning manual transmission on a car. You really learn how to drive the car without any help. The same thing with the drone. You really learn how to fly a drone without any of the additional help, which actually makes you a better drone pilot for when you do have all the additional help of sensors and navigation and all of that. Tip number 2, and I know this one is a little bit boring, but read the manual. Read the entire manual. Learn how to use all the remote control settings, learn what they mean. This is something that I wish I had known. A lot of drone remotes have an emergency stop feature, so when you're going out of control, you can just hit the stop button and everything will freeze, the drone will hover, and that way you can reorient yourself and figure out what to do next without actually crashing your drone. Reading the manual will also give you very important features of the drone, for example, minimum and maximum temperature limits, wind limits, as well as defining what the sensors can and can't detect. That's important to know so you don't rely on them too heavily to keep you out of a crash. For those of you using DJI drones, DJI makes all of their manuals available on their website. I will link to that in the description below. Some other features to take an especially close look at are the return to home functions and any emergency shutoff functions. And also another tip for DJI drones that have a sports mode, DJI ships the remotes in sport mode, so you want to make sure that that sport mode is off so you're not going too fast, that you have any visual sensors are enabled. Also, you want to check every time you fly that sport mode is not enabled unless you enabled it. That switch easily gets flipped when you're taking the drone in and out of a case, for example. So be sure to check on sport mode. Seriously, don't fly indoors. And if you read the manual, you should know about any return to home features, where if the drone loses connection with the remote control, it will return to home. Return to home features generally have a maximum altitude, so what will happen is if the drone detects that it's lost connection with the remote control, it will shoot up to a certain altitude that you set in the settings, or that's by default in the settings, and try to come home. Obviously, if there's a ceiling above you and that happens, you're going to have a crash. So you'll need to turn return to home off if you're flying indoors, but really, don't fly indoors. If your drone has an associated app, you're going to want to learn that app very well. You can do this in most cases without actually having your remote control connected to the drone. You want to make sure that you know all of the settings and have them set as you like, so there's less fumbling around when you're actually flying. Some drone apps actually have built-in simulators too that you can take advantage of. That's an easy way to practice flying without actually endangering your drone. Don't fight nature. When the winds are higher than the manufacturer recommended, then don't fly your drone. Winds are not likely to bring down most drones, however, they will make it harder to control the drone on a horizontal axis, making it much more likely that you'll hit nearby objects. Landings also become much more difficult in strong winds, so you'll need a larger landing area when it's windy outside. Unless your drone is weather or waterproof, don't fly it in the rain. You don't want to have a short circuit when the drone is flying in the sky. Tip number 6, learn the local laws before you fly. Especially if you're traveling internationally, it's very important you know what the local laws are. A lot of countries won't even let you import a drone. They will confiscate your drone at the airport. Now, this is an issue I've come across a lot of times in my travels. So what I did was I created an app called DroneMate, which has all of the local and international laws for flying a drone. It's updated regularly. It's available for iOS and Android. There's also a free version on my website you can check out. You'll just have to remember to take a look before you actually travel. Having DroneMate on your phone means that you can access it offline at any time, as well as have it in your pocket in case you forget to check the laws before you head to the airport. It's very important you're gentle with the controls. This is one mistake I made when I crashed my drone into a tree. Although many drones are designed to stop when you let off the controls, they'll still carry their momentum with them. And drones can go pretty fast and the controls are very sensitive. All of these things mean you want to be very gentle with the controls, move slowly. Going full speed makes it difficult to stop, and if there's an obstacle in your way and you're not experienced with the controls, it's going to be difficult to get around it and you'll probably crash, so be gentle with the controls. Some drones also let you adjust the sensitivity of the controls. You can try doing that when you're a beginner so that the controls aren't as responsive or sensitive, and this might help you get used to the controls while you're first starting out. This one seems very obvious, but the first time you get a drone, it's going to be probably shipped to your house, and you're going to be tempted to either fly it indoors or in your neighborhood. It's really worth it to be patient and go somewhere where you have a lot of wide open space, where there's little to nothing to hit, so that you can really practice the drone and get a feel for its power. Having only two directions to worry about makes it much easier to practice with your drone. Get comfortable going up, then down before you start moving left, right, forward, and backward. Start with the vertical axis first, and then go to the horizontal axis. This one is something that people get wrong a lot, and that's because there's a natural tendency to feel safer when the drone is closer to you. Closer to you means lower to the ground, and that's where there are more things to hit. When you're first starting out, remember, the higher up you are, generally speaking, the safer it is to fly your drone, the less chance there is of a crash. Make sure you follow the legal limits, of course, but when you're high up, there's less to hit. One thing you will have to note, though, is keep an eye on birds. As a general rule, birds don't bother with the things above them. Try not to fly underneath birds. From my experience, seagulls have a habit of chasing drones, while crows tend to get more bold when they're in groups. Also, if you see a hawk or an eagle, it's best to land. They do tend to go after drones. Speaking of birds in general, remember that drones hover, but birds do not. They will follow the wind currents. You need to keep a good eye on the winds and which direction they're moving. An updraft can bring a whole flock of birds up into your drone, so you just need to keep an eye on the wind patterns, and if there are any birds in the area, be very careful and watch where the winds are taking them. Going back to what I said earlier, you need to learn how to fly your drone first and then work on using the camera and manipulating it through the app. The best way to do that is to fly your drone using your eyes. Once you're comfortable flying your drone visually, you can then begin working on manipulating it with the app. Drones can be tricky to orient visually, especially when they're high up. Remember any return to home features, and many drone apps have a directional arrow you can use to get the drone back to you. Landing is the hardest part about flying a drone. The first step to a good landing is to have a good takeoff point. You want to make sure you have a good landing pad area, at least 2 to 3 times the width of your drone. Give yourself more space if there's a lot of wind, and don't force any landings. If it's windy or you don't feel comfortable, take it slowly and try again. So you're a drone pilot, but what you really want to do is think like an airplane pilot, which is know the machine that you're flying very well, give everything a wide berth, focus on safety, and don't fight the conditions. Don't fight weather, don't fight nature, because you're just setting yourself up to lose. One urge you really need to fight is keeping the drone close to you and low to the ground. That's where most of the accidents can happen. That's where most of the things that you can hit are. So hopefully these tips help you to not crash your drone on the first flight, and you're not watching this because you did crash your drone. I hope not. But if you're curious about how the DJI repair service works, I'll link to that below. I hope these tips were helpful for you, and I hope they prevent you from crashing your drone. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and the like button down below, and I'll have new videos coming up every week. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. The second time that I flew a drone, I actually crashed it, and then I got it back from DJI's repair, which I'll